Jim, can you offer us any kind of an update on situations with Petey and Quinn?
Yeah, well, we've been, dealing with that all summer. I'm disappointed that they're not going to be here for the start of camp, but I'm going to continue to talk to CAA and Pat Brisson and, try to get something figured out here as soon as we can.
How far apart are you in your mind, and is it more of a dollar return?
We're still dealing with all that. I don't think we're that far apart, but these are complex and unique deals. These are two good young players and important part of our group. So, like I said, we're going to continue to work with Pat until we get something figured out.
Travis, how does this affect your plans for training camp, not having those two guys here?
As far as affecting camp, it doesn't really affect it, minus the fact that they're not here. But it affects the team and it affects the players themselves individually, I think. Disappointed that they're not here, obviously, as a coach. We've got a lot of new bodies on our team. I think, being two big pieces to our team is important that they're here. And obviously being two younger players, training camp is a big part of working on certain parts of your game. And these are two young players that are vital to our team, but also, it's an important time for them as well, and our team.
Jim, in addition to Petey and Hughes, sounds like Tyler Mott's not available for the start of training camp. There's a little bit of a lack of clarity on his situation. What can you tell us in terms of the nature of his injury, the surgery that was involved, timeline there, and is there anybody else that won't be ready for day one?
Yeah, so Tyler had an upper body injury. He had surgery this summer, and he's still rehabbing it. So he won't be skating with the main group at training camp, and we'll just see where his rehab goes. I don't know if he'll be available to start the season or not, but it'll just tell on how the rehab goes in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
And what about the availability of anybody else?
Well, Suts has been dealing with some fatigue. He's been doing some tests, and so we're not really sure what that is yet, but so he might not be available to start camp. Bailey tested positive as he was crossing the border, so he had to stay back in Buffalo for 10 days, and then he'll do another test, and so he'll be late coming into camp. Other than that, I think that's pretty much everybody, I think. Hamonic will be here.
Jim, a couple from me. There was some speculation that Hamonic's not here with a non-injury related situation. You say you expect him here. Is it anything, he opted out of the bubble previously. Is there anything health related, protocol related with Hamonic?
No, he's going to be here. Okay.
Yeah. You talked earlier in the week about the possibility of a PTO. Did you go down that road?
Yeah, I've talked to some agents this morning. We're going to talk again this afternoon. And, there's a possibility we're going to bring in a player or two on a PTO.
Thank you.
Jim, in light of the whole COVID situation and what you guys went through as a hockey team last season, what we're all going through right now, yesterday we saw John Davidson send a player home who wasn't vaccinated. What is going to be the policy for your players this year?
Our organization will be 100% vaccinated by the first game of the season. So, we have a strict policy in place also, and we're going to be, by the time the season starts, we'll be 100%.
Does that, when you say organization, does that mean your players?
Players, everybody on the staff, everybody in the front office, everybody's been vaccinated.
Jim, have you ruled out COVID for Sutter? Was he tested when you talked about fatigue?
Yeah, he's done a COVID test. Obviously, he doesn't have COVID, but so we're just, we're doing a bunch more tests just to make sure we find out what it is, and we'll deal with it. And when he's ready to go, he'll be back out on the ice.
And Travis, I know talking to a few of your players when they're just doing their informal skates, they're pretty excited about this season and to make amends for last year.
Right.
How important is it for you to try to build some momentum early here, like even in camp, and feel like you've got something going when the season starts.
Well, I think that's part of training camp. Feeling good about yourself, coming to camp in shape, for starters, ready to go. I mean, to a man downstairs that I've talked to, I can feel the energy from our players. They've been skating hard for the last 2 weeks here. Obviously not with us, but from what I hear, they're pushing themselves very hard. And, you know, training camps, there's so many different areas that you work on, and what training camp is for. It feels like it's been forever since we've had one. And obviously you're working on your team game. But it's a little bit different with our team. We've got so many new faces. Like you mentioned, building momentum, and I think that momentum will come from just being together as a team, trying to bond, trying to get it to know each other. And, you know, when you start with an excitement level that we have right now, that I can feel with our group, it makes it a lot easier.
Guys at this level, especially if they have some experience, are pretty good at compartmentalizing.
Right.
You know, they don't worry about who's not here. Are you concerned at all as a coach, though, because of the impact of the two guys who are missing, that it becomes an issue to some players, or that it's on their minds?
I think once we start, the players understand that this has happened before. This is not a market that we play in, that it's not talked about a lot. But they also know, the players know how important training camp is as well. And they're all going to want these players here. But I'm not worried about it affecting how we get ready. I'm worried about the two players coming back into our group and missing the time that is vital, not just for your hockey team on the ice, but what we talked about off the ice, and having so many new faces and being around players. There's something to be said about that.
Travis, you mentioned all the new faces coming in this year. I'm wondering what your strategy will be for these first few days of camp. Will you be sort of mixing and matching players and looking for chemistry between them, or trying to sort of set some lines?
There's obviously certain players that I'll put in certain spots. We're missing a few centermen, so that'll affect training camp a little bit. And you know, we might have some guys that might play the middle during camp that might normally play the wing, but I don't mind seeing them in those spots. But there's definitely, you know, there's always 2 to 4 players that you might put in a spot to see how they look. There's obviously players on your team that are veteran guys that you'll pair up and maybe put on a line to see how that looks. So that's just part of training camp, and seeing how it develops as the time goes on. And we don't take it lightly. We spend a lot of time looking at lines, and you know, you'll see the lines tomorrow, and you'll have an idea who's getting a look in certain spots.
Jim, I understand that he's no longer with the organization, but did your club ever conclude the internal investigation into the allegations made against Jake Virtanen?
No, we haven't got that report yet, and like I've said before, it's an ongoing police investigation, so we're not going to comment.
Travis, you have another exciting young player that joins your group this year in Vasily Podkolzin.
Mm-hmm.
What have you seen from him, or what do you expect from him here as training camp?
Again, we've had a lot of good young players come through in the past few years. I think it's important from a coach's standpoint not to, I don't want to use the word protect, but put these players in positions to succeed. Expectations are always very high for young players that come, especially in a Canadian market. We like them a lot. We've liked them when we drafted them. Followed him the last few years. Got to know him a little bit the last couple of weeks while he's been skating, and you know, that's why training camp. That's why you have it, to see where guys are, where they need to improve, what they can handle. I said it a couple of weeks ago that we want him to be in the best spot that he can be for himself and our team, and bringing him along the right way is also important. So we'll see how he looks in camp.
One for each, if you don't mind, Jim. Coming out of the rookie camp, anybody else with a little bit of momentum? We were all impressed with Podkolzin, but just generally speaking, your individual's thoughts on who might have an impact?
Well, I think it was a good week. You know, those kids learned a lot. You know, they did a lot of skills work, power skating stuff, did a lot of off-ice stuff, working with the kids and teaching them. I think RJ and his group did a real good job with that. You know, I've liked Klimovich so far. He's a big, strong kid, and he's showing real good skills so far, so I'm excited to see him at training camp. But like for all those guys, it'll be exciting. Some of them are going to be at their first camps and see what they can do.
And Travis, I know you've gone through this somewhat recently as a player. Just jumping ahead a little bit. Is it myth or is it reality, especially when you have a lot of new faces, you start the season with a 6-game road trip? Is it true that that's a great opportunity to kind of mesh, get away from families, whatever? Mind to that?
Yeah, I think it's, I don't know if you ever would pick a 6-game road trip to start a year, but I've said it many times to you guys, I worry about what we can control, and I think it is good timing. For our team, it's great with this many new players, getting out on the road, especially after COVID, traveling to cities that we haven't traveled in a while. It'll be a good time. We've got some days off in between games. It's going to be important for our group to come together. You know, you talk about winning and what it takes. There's the internal part of it, as far as caring for each other, working and competing for each other, and you know, with new faces, giving them time to bond and getting that time is going to be a great thing about that road trip.
Jim, did you put any extra effort this summer into educating your players about the importance of vaccination? And did anyone need any extra convincing?
Yeah, well, you know, as an organization, we put a lot of importance on making sure that, you know, like what we went through last year as a team was really hard. It wasn't just hard on the players, but, you know, their families too. You know, a lot of these guys have young kids, and, you know, they all ended up getting sick. So, you know, I think, you know, as a group, they knew the importance of getting vaccinated and to give ourselves the best chance to get back to normal. And so I don't think, you know, there wasn't too many guys that didn't want to get vaccinated.
Let's take a few more here. We've got our players ready to go.
Travis, the third left defense spot behind Hughes and Ekman-Larsson, can you talk about some of the candidates there, like a Rathbone or a Uolevi or a Hunt, and just what you're looking for in that spot, and also how important a penalty-killing role might be in that spot, given that Quinn doesn't do a lot of that?
Yeah, I think you just nailed it. There's 3 guys probably vying for one spot, and whoever plays the best in the next 3 weeks will have that spot. It's pretty simple. You know, they all probably bring something to the table that might be a little different. Hunt's obviously got experience, has gone through a lot of different things in the NHL. Ole had a pretty decent start to last year, I thought, and hopefully has had a big summer to come back as a better hockey player, and Rathbone got a taste of it, and we've seen glimpses of what he can do or what he can become. But you know, that's the exciting thing about camp. You get to see where these players fit in. The games are big for those players. I think the games toward the end always mean a little bit more than the games at the beginning, and you hope you see good things right away, and you hope that you see things progress and get better as camp goes on, and that's, you know, that's what training camp's for in some spots. Whoever has worked the hardest in the summer, whoever deserves that spot, will get it. And you're right, with the penalty killing, that might play into it a little bit. Quinn doesn't kill penalties, and you know, you'd like to have 5 guys, but you don't always have that either.
Is camp long enough? Like, from a coaching perspective, I mean, it gets shorter and shorter every year, 3 days and you're into preseason games. Is it long enough?
Yeah, I actually, when I looked at it this year, I felt like it was pretty good length of time. I was happy with it. We get some quality practice time. We've got a lot of games, and I think there's also something to be said about camp being too long. These guys come into camp, I mean, they're ready to go. A lot of guys could probably play regular season in a week. You know, I think it's important for a team with so many players, new players, that, you know, we're happy that camp is as long as it is this year. But I think I like the length of it right now.
Jim, I know some negotiations are easier than others, and there's different nuances. You've been at this for a while with Petey and Quinn. How would you describe it? Has it been taxing? Has it been difficult? I mean, because I didn't think we'd
Well,
expect to go this long.
Yeah, well, they're complex negotiations, like, you know, they're two, you know, real good young players, they're important to our organization, so, you know, you know, we've had a lot of conversations, you know, with Pat Brisson to try to find common ground, and we'll continue to have those conversations. I think we're getting close, but, you know, we'll just continue on, and hopefully we can get it done sooner rather than later.
What does common ground look like?
Well, we're still talking about that, you know, we're negotiating on two players kind of at the same time, so, you know, so I'm gonna talk again with them this afternoon, and, you know, hopefully we can get something done here quick.
And one for me, Travis, there's so many unknowns going into training camp, and, you know, Brock has had his share from a contract pulled out during the Victoria camp and having some health concerns and even some speculation about his future in the organization. But here he is, healthy. He's a better player probably than he was a year or two ago. He's actually set some goals this year, which he doesn't do in the past. He wants to hit goal totals. He wants to be that kind of a player. What's the ceiling on Brock? Because you keep talking about there's another level for him to get to.
Yeah, I think Brock has progressed well as a player. He's become, you know, a go-to guy for us over the years. I think he, you know, the only total I care about is the win total and him being part of that. Obviously, scoring goals is part of his game, but I think he also understands that there's a lot more that goes into winning than just scoring. And that's one of the things that I think over the years has changed in Brock. You know, we've seen when he's on his game, he's doing a lot of little things that don't really have anything to do with goal scoring, even though we know that he's capable of that and he is that type of player. I think when you mature as a player, you start to understand, you know, getting outside your comfort zone a little bit to do things that don't come with a lot of glory and aren't always recognized on the score sheet. And, you know, he's not the only young guy that I think is progressing in that area, but he's definitely one of them.